We really greatly appreciate everybody taking their time out of their busy day to hear our story today. This is another one in an ongoing series of webinars. We try to make these very educational, maybe a little bit of marketing, product, talk about our product a little bit, but we are here to answer any questions you have relative to builder's risk insurance, course of construction, inland marine. Today, we're going to talk about something that we are seeing more today than I have ever seen in my career. And that's, I have a long career, that's all I'll say, it's very experienced. These things are happening every day. So I decided this is really important to talk about it. This affects, to me, it affects not only builder's risk insurance, but the home building industry and the construction industry as a whole. These are things that we read about, but now we're starting to see what's happening. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to talk about how a job site should be controlled, not just the security, but the controls that need to be in place. Because what we've seen is if the controls aren't in place, things spin out of control very quickly. So I think as agents, we're always trying to be consultative to our insureds. So this is critical when you sit and talk to these builders, that you bring up some of these things. This will be a good resource tool for you as we get through this presentation. And what we're going to do is spend 15 or 20 minutes on the presentation, and then we will open it up to Q&A. So whatever questions you have, save them till the end, and we'll do our best to answer them. So let's get going. Security protocols. Now, some of this, not every builder is going to do every one of these things, but I think as the builder grows in size and the values grow that are exposed, more and more of these things should be considered. And like I said, as an agent, I would at least bring them up to the insured saying, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Some of these things do cost money, so you have to balance the cost of the security with the exposure. But all I have to say to that is we all know values are going up dramatically. So as these homes become worth more and more, perhaps it'll be worth something to protect them. First of all, the key to building a house is the project manager. We could call them the residential general contractor, the site manager, whatever. Who's ever on that job site on a regular basis is the key to making all of this work. They're the ones that are going to oversee the project. They're going to look at all the things we talk about today. What we're dealing with, one thing the project manager does is keeps a pretty good eye on the subcontractors. I was visiting a house under construction the other day, and there was 15 subcontractors working. Now, not necessarily 15 individuals, there was 15 individuals, but also different disciplines. Plumber was there, the electrician was there, a roofer was there. So you can imagine all the moving parts on a house that's being built. So you need someone that's overseeing these subcontractors. One of the keys to me too is in a subdivision that's being built, many times there's numerous builders that are building. And so they're building right next to each other. So we'd like to say there's some kind of sense of community. And where we've seen the best job site security is where the builders do have a sense of community. And usually that's through the local home builder association. So they're all in this together, so they kind of keep an eye on each other's job site. I think there's a lot of value to that. The end of the day walkthrough. This is one of the major loss control techniques. The project manager, developer owner, somebody needs to walk through the job site at the end of the day. We can look for all kinds of things, materials that were left out in the open, doors that aren't locked, hot spots, something to prevent a fire. There's so many things you can prevent. And that's when I look at all the theft claims that come in almost every day on our program. I wonder to myself, how many could have been prevented? And it's amazing. I would say the vast majority could be prevented with some of these basic techniques. Control access to the job site. This is not a playground. It's not a somewhere for other contractors, subcontractors that are not working on the job site to be there. So the access needs to be controlled as much as possible. If you control the access, think what you can do to prevent all the problems that happen. Establish your relationship with the local police department. I was driving through a new subdivision not too long ago, and there was a policeman there. And I stopped and asked him. He said, "Yeah, we've been having a rash of theft claims. So the builders have hired me. I'm an off-duty policeman, and they hired him to patrol the ground, the subdivision after hours." And he goes, "We've dramatically reduced theft incidents." Funny how that works. And another thing is these vehicles. You can't just have vehicles going to the job site that aren't supposed to be there, because that's really part of the problem. We had situations where there was a lack of control and trucks were pulling up to job sites and loading up stuff and hauling it away. So we got to prevent that somehow. Security cameras. These things become relatively inexpensive. And so when you're looking at millions of dollars at risk in construction materials, the cost of a few cameras is nominal to me. There should be cameras everywhere. You can hide them. They're very small now, so we all have them in our homes, outside our homes. So we need to push these security cameras. We had a situation, I won't talk about what state it was in, but we were having a rash of theft claims. Builder installed some security cameras, and they caught the perpetrators, and the theft claims were reduced. So I cannot stress that enough. Central station monitoring, it's a little more expensive, but that's even better. So you have a camera and someone's going to monitor the camera. If there's an incident, they can get on the phone and call the police. I don't know, just these things would happen. So I would definitely mention that to the builders. Lighting, they've done all these studies. It's amazing. If a job site is lit, theft claims go down dramatically. I forget that they've even done studies in different townships and cities where they light the streets better, and crime goes down because there's more light on the street. It's kind of funny, but just can't stress that enough too. These motion sensor lights are not expensive. I think the one you see in this picture, that would be kind of expensive, but you could mount security lights, motion sensitive, around a job site. I would mount them not only right around the structure being built, but maybe on the perimeter of the structure. Simply by the lights going on, you'll chase people away. It's a good thing. And make sure that different areas are lit in the job site. Sometimes you're going to be storing materials in a trailer or some kind of temporary structure. The light needs to shine on that, because the criminals know that that's where the materials are. So we need to light that. We'll get into that in a little bit. But just make sure the access points are controlled and lit. Fencing. This is always a hot topic, because some builders will say, I don't have time to put the fence up and this and that. And I understand there's a cost to fencing, but another study, obviously, if we make it harder to access the job site, you're going to reduce theft claims. So we have had situations where the criminals will actually cut through a fence, pull a truck in, load it up, and haul it away. So it doesn't prevent it completely. But I think if we make it a little harder for them, in the long run, we'll be better off. So, and once again, the bigger the fence, the fewer the access points, the good so what of that is. And it's a way to control access to the job site even during the day. So I would definitely consider fencing as something that we should probably do. This next screen I cannot stress enough, and we'll call it controlling inventory. So in the past, when things were really hopping and the builders were building fast, maybe they had a number of projects going on, they would have lumber packages delivered to the job site, and they would drop it on the job site, and maybe they get to it in a week or two, and there was never a problem. But now what we're seeing is, if you drop a lumber package on a job site and you wait a week or two, and now you go to install that lumber package, guess what? It's probably not there, or half of it's gone. So builders have gotten better, and we need to keep stressing this, that let's have it delivered when we're ready to install it. Because once it's installed, they can't just pull up and load it in the truck and take off. So it's really based on timing. I know it's difficult because shortage of material, shortage of labor and this and that, but it's becoming a a major problem in the industry. And we're going to talk about claims a little bit, but nobody wants to have claims. I mean, obviously we don't, as insurance carrier, want to have claims, but the builder doesn't want to have claims either. It delays the construction. It's just, and then when they go to get their insurance next year, the premiums are a lot higher, deductibles are higher, so they don't want to have. Nobody wants to have claims. So this timing of delivery of materials is critical. Inventory control. You'd be amazed. Some builders will say, well, we don't know what happened to the materials. They're just not there. And usually that's not covered on an insurance policy if you just can't prove that it was ever there. So we got a problem. So inventory control, you need to take care of that too. So know exactly what was delivered and when, have somebody accept the delivery. These are just basic things, but we need to make sure this is taking place. And I threw that in there with background checks on subcontractors. Might not hurt, just to make sure that we're all, I mean, a lot of the general contractors have the same subs for many, many years, and they, excuse me, and they don't need to order background checks. That's fine. But if you're trying subcontractors for the first time, I would probably order the background check. Simple as that, just to get an idea to make sure that everything's everything's good. The larger the builder, to me, the more security they're going to need. It used to be the value of an individual project. So you'll see high value projects that have safeguard warranties, that you must have a fence, you must have security cameras, you must have lighting. If you don't, it might void coverage. I've not seen that with smaller projects, but if you have a larger builder that's developing a number of homes in a subdivision, I would say these things are going to become mandatory. And like I said, you can do it pretty cost effectively. But I would definitely, for the larger builders, have somebody patrolling the job site at night. That's just something you should do. All right, that was kind of my talk on theft, and I'll get back to it in a minute. But since it's this time of year, I thought I'd just touch about wind. When I look at our claims over the last year, theft dominated the claims, and the second most prevalent peril has been wind. And when I say wind, we've had some hail damage and we've had some windstorm damage. So it's something I think we need to talk about. First of all, the building codes everywhere are getting stricter. So the builders, obviously, I think they do stay up on the codes, but a lot of these codes will prevent some of the major wind problems. And just interesting enough, Florida has the strictest building codes now in the United States, and they have mitigated the wind damage dramatically because of these codes. And a lot of builders risk is designed for when the building is encased and the roof is attached, the claims are a lot less. We had a claim not too long ago where the roof wasn't on yet. It was a lightweight metal building, and the wind came and just tore it all apart. If the roof had been on it, probably wouldn't have been a claim. So it goes back to that timing. We got to try to get these things enclosed and capped as soon as we can. The quicker we do it, the less chance of wind damage. Obviously, the weather forecast, we always talk about that, but we get fairly, 3 or 4, even more days notice now when the storms are coming. So this goes back to that policing the job site, making sure materials are picked up, mobile equipment is tied down. If it's a multi-story building and it's enclosed, let's move the equipment to the second floor so it's enclosed, it's better protected, plus that helps from theft also. And you should have a catastrophic management plan. So we know it's coming, so let's have a plan. What are we going to do before, during, and after the storm? Let's have all that written out. And like I said, consultative. If you want to talk to your builders, to me, this is the value added that a good agent brings to the table. So I think that's critical on the wind piece. Claims. Some of this stuff I just thought I'd mention because we're seeing it. These theft claims. Sometimes a builder will submit a theft claim and they didn't really know what was stolen. Something was stolen. They didn't have a police report. I'm trying to prevent that because what we want to do is if there is a claim, we want to make a legitimate claim. We want to make sure it gets paid correctly. So always obtain a police report. We had a builder that said, well, it was a small claim, so I didn't report it for 3 or 4 months. I waited till I had a number of claims and I reported them all at once. That is not a good practice. What we want to do is if you have a claim, builder has a claim, they need to file a police report and then file the claim as soon as practical, as soon as possible. So much of this stuff is inventory. You got to know what's on the job site. So if it gets stolen, you know what was stolen. And this is the goal of us, is that our goal is always to pay legitimate claims, accurately and correctly as soon as practical. So we know that's better for all of us. So that's really what we're trying to get to. So just a few little tips there on claims. Okay, we're gonna switch our thinking now. This is just the hot topic of the day. So I get asked this question multiple times during the day. And the reason it's happening today is projects, we all can agree, are taking longer than we thought. If you'd asked me a year ago where we would be today, I wouldn't have known that. So now things are taking longer. They're taking longer because of shortage of materials, shortage of labor. Permitting is taking longer in some parts of the country. So as these projects take longer, maybe we thought it was going to be a 12-month project, and now it's going to be an 18-month project. Builder's risk is a different line of business. Builder's risk does not renew. It's inland marine. So what you have to do as an agent is notify your underwriter, I need to extend the policy. It's not completed yet. I thought it was, and now it's not. So as an inland marine underwriter, we're going to re-underwrite the risk, and we're going to ask certain questions. Not complex questions. The first thing we're going to ask is the value still the same? If yes, that's good. If the value has increased, then we need to increase the value on the policy, which can be done by endorsement. The other thing is, so obviously how long? I need another 6 months. Okay, we'll extend it for another 6 months. Do not wait till the day it expires to start this process, because sometimes the underwriters get a little nervous when it's like that. This is not a renewal, it's an extension. So you must give the underwriter enough time. And the other thing is the scope of the project. When you're writing a remodeling, renovating risk, the original policy was based on doing this, whatever you're doing, interior only renovations. If the scope has changed dramatically, you need to notify the underwriter. Now, the underwriter has the authority to either extend it, or maybe they'll say it's too much exposure for us, we got to get off of it. So you need to do these things, I say 30 days before the expiration, maybe even 30 to 60 days. So if the underwriter says, I can't write that risk now, it's too much exposure, the scope is too much for us, you have time to place it somewhere else. So all of this happens to us every day. So this is a difference. So this is the difference between extensions and renewals. It's not a renewal, it is an extension. Inland marine carriers don't have to give notice. Like with the renewal, you got to give 30 days, 60 days notice, you're going to non-renew it. That's not the way it's done in builder's risk. Because we wrote the policy for 12 months and we're off of it, unless you tell us different. You're going to always have a little questionnaire you got to fill out for the extension, but it's going to ask what I said. Has the value changed? Has the scope changed? Why is it being delayed? Obviously, it's pretty obvious today it's being delayed because of the reasons I gave you earlier, and that's fine. That makes sense. I think as builders risk underwriters, we know things are being delayed, but you have to tell us why, and you have to ask for more coverage in a longer period. One thing a lot of our agents are starting to do, we're starting to see more 14, 16, 18-month policies. We can accommodate that. We can accommodate up to 24 months. So if you know the project's going to take 18 months, let's go ahead and write an 18-month policy. Then we don't have to worry about this extension and having to worry about a potential gap in coverage. So work with your underwriters on that. I think that's probably a better way to go. Because based on the value of the project and where it's located in the country, these things are taking longer than a year. We used to extend, say, 15% of our book. We're probably up to 30% being extended now, and even going up more than that. Everything's being extended. It's kind of a catch-22 from a builder's risk underwriter carrier perspective. Yes, that's great. We get more premium, but now we're extending these things. There's more exposure. Builder's risk is always, we have the most exposure at the end of a project. So it is kind of a catch-22. But from an agent perspective, communicate with your underwriters. That's always the key, 30 days prior. I always like to throw this in here, and this is a little, just a little discussion on our program, Victor's Builder's Risk Program. We have a digital portal called V Squared. All of you should be registered on V Squared. You can go there and enter some basic data, hit a button and get a quote proposal, hit a button and get a policy. We want to make this as simple and easy as possible, trying to only ask the relevant underwriting questions. We got things working pretty quick now. We have agents that really enjoy it. We just need to get even more of you enjoying it. How's that? That's my role as program manager, is trying to get this word out that this is what it is. And just to throw a few things out there, we call it the pass-through risk. But if it's protection class 1 to 7, $3 million or less in inland, $1.5 million coastal, you are happy with our canned coverages that we have built in, that should flow through the system. You should not have to talk to an underwriter, hit a button, get a proposal, hit a button, get a policy. So that's what we want to see more of. Just think of us anytime you have any of these builder's risk exposures. And just to put my pretty picture up there and Donna's, there's our contact information, but we're all over the website too. So feel free to give me a call. There's my email. We have an 800 number, 944-7472. Give us a call anytime. So what we are going to do now is open this up to questions. So any questions you have relative to builder's risk, we're here to help. Darcy, what do we got?
All right, Jeff. First question, do you have a different deductible for theft?
We have a different deductible for theft. We actually do not. We have what we call in certain mandatory areas, we have mandatory wind deductibles, wind and hail deductibles. And then we have our standard AOP deductible, all other perils deductible, which theft is included in that. So if we have a $5,000 AOP deductible, that's what would apply to theft and any other peril other than wind if we have a separate wind deductible. Good question.
All right, Jeff. It actually seems like we don't have any other questions at this point.
I'm shocked. Thought we would.
I know.
But that's good. So we all get back to work earlier today. So what I will do in closing, though, I do want to say this is really critical time for us in the builder's risk industry. You're going to see rates going up. You're going to see increased deductibles. You're going to see companies not writing this business if we don't get these things under control. There is definitely a frequency of problem and theft in our line of business, and we got to get that frequency in order. There's always been severity problems in builder's risk because of a tropical storm or a tornado or a wildfire. We kind of build those into the rates and the guidelines. But this frequency of theft is something that can affect all of us. So we need to do our part to try to get that fixed. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, anytime, 800-944-7472, give me a call anytime, and we're here to help. With that, I will let you go and have a great day. Appreciate your time.